Come Forth, a short Dvar Torah for Parashat Toledot. The discussions on social media around the ongoing war in Gaza today sharpened an important insight for me when approaching a biblical story. The framing of the story being discussed is an integral part of the interpretation. When does the history of the conflict, so to speak, begin? From Simchat Torah, the War of Independence, the Balfour Declaration, the Second Temple period, the First Temple period, the Canaanites, the banishment of the children of Shem by the Canaanites, creation, before? The essential story in our parasha, the story of the blessings, also varies greatly depending on how it's framed. Is it, as the Christian division into chapters implies, a story about the manipulation of Yitzchak, the blind father, and his firstborn son? The fulfillment of the prophecy, the elder shall serve the younger, Verav Yavod Tza'ir, emphasizing key moments like the sale of the birthright, the Bechorah, and the traditional divisions into weekly portions suggest. The story of Esav's marriage, as Professor Grossman proposes, based on the framing verses of the blessing story, where Esav first gets married and then ends with him getting married. Each such division tells a different story, but I want to suggest the telling of the story from the perspective of a single word. The word that caught my eye and through which I want to examine the story is the word Vayigash, and he drew near in its various grammatical forms. The reason I was particularly interested in this word is the density in which it appears in a single cluster of verses at the heart of the story, and does not appear at all in the rest of the portion. Before we get excited about the word, it's worth emphasizing that it had alternatives. Instead of saying Ksha nava mushchabni, please come near so I can feel you, my son, Yitzchak could have said Krav, come close, or Bo, come. Instead of Hagish ali ve'ochla mitzed b'ni, bring to me and I shall eat from my son's game, he could have said ten, give, or Havi, bring. As indeed happens elsewhere in the parasha, such as in Pasuk Hey, Vayelech Esav hasadeh latzud zaid lehavi. Esav went to the field to hunt game to bring, or more forcefully in Pasuk Kaf Hey, Vayagesh lo vayochal, vayave lo yain vayesht. And he drew near to him and gave it to him, and he ate, and he brought him wine, and he drank. It is worth examining whether drawing near is essentially different than giving or bringing. I'll explain. It may be that technically drawing near seeks closer physical proximity. For our purposes, it is possible that Vayavo Yaakov el Aviv, and Yaakov came to his father, in Pasuk Yudchet, refers to entering a shared room, as opposed to Vayigash Yaakov el Yitzchak Aviv, and Yaakov drew near to his father Yitzchak, in Pasuk Avbet, which speaks of closer proximity, so that Yitzchak could touch him. I have difficulty accepting this explanation for several reasons. First, in the pasuk we referred to, we saw a distinction between the food that was mugash, brought near, and the wine that was just brought, muva, even though both ostensibly require the same physical proximity. Second, there are various places in the Torah, such as, for example, the eating from the tree of knowledge, where physical proximity is described through giving, vatiten gam leisha, Ima vayochal, and she gave also to her husband, and he ate. Or through bringing, vayimtza dudaim basadeh vayavi el Leah imo, and Reuven found mandrakes in the field and brought them to Leah his mother. Third, drawing near also does not always specifically refer to greater physical proximity. Two examples of this are first two times the expression appears in the Torah. One, Vayigash Avraham, and Avraham drew near, where Avraham tries to defend Sodom before God, when ostensibly there is no place that is closer or further from God. And two, the people of Sodom, who want Lot to distance himself from the entrance of the house and say, Gesh hala, draw away now. Therefore, it seems to me that it's about a more essential aspect of drawing near, which Rashi refers to in Parashat Vayera. Vayigash Avraham, says Rashi, we find drawing near for battle, Vayigash Yoav, drawing near for reconciliation, Vayigash Elav Yehuda, and drawing near for prayer, Vayigash Eliyahu Hanavi. For all these, Avraham drew near to speak harshly, to make peace, and to pray. It's interesting to note that despite Rashi using the example of Yehuda to demonstrate a case of reconciliation, in the portion of Vayigash, Rashi paints Yehuda as much more warmongering, while on the other hand, it does not seem to me that Avraham thinks he can win a one-on-one battle with the Master of the Universe. In my opinion, what these three cases have in common is that they involve an intense and complex situation, and it's unclear how they will end. It's a word that symbolizes the turning point in the story. Will the brothers defend Binyamin from the Egyptian ruler or allow him to do with Binyamin as he pleases? Will Avraham allow Hashem to overturn Sodom or demand justice? Will Yaakov receive the coveted blessings or bring curses upon himself instead of blessings? There are other points to clarify, such as why drawing near is usually a proactive act, and here it's a command, or why sacrifices are brought near, but we will leave those for another time. In the meantime, we will allow the word lageshet, to draw near, to continue accompanying us as we draw near to the boss with the request for a raise, or try to decide whether to start a diet today or after the holidays. It's worth remembering, now is the time to draw near. In memory of my beloved and heroic student Amichai Shimon ben Batya and Ishai Rubin, who drew near, may Hashem avenge his blood. Dovi Holtz, one who loves Tanakh.